Welcome to the Redeemer Podcast. I'm your host, Zach, and in today's episode, we are continuing our alumni series where we check in with Redeemer alumni and where they're at in their career, education, and beyond their time at Redeemer. I am pleased to welcome Kristen Parker to this episode. We're going to check in with her. She currently is a freelancer who specializes in social media, customer service, leadership, and communications. I'm excited for you all to hear about how her career has developed as a freelancer. But before we get into it, if it is your first time here, make sure to like and subscribe, share with a friend, and check out some of our other episodes that explore various aspects of Redeemer, Christian education, and so much more. Thank you for making us part of your day. And with that, here we go. And we are back with another episode of the Redeemer Podcast, continuing our alumni series. And I'm joined today by my good friend, Kristen Parker. Kristen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and I know you and I had many classes together. We're both media and communications students, so excited to kind of nerd out about that with you. But just in general, Kristen, could you let our viewers know when were you at Redeemer? When did you graduate? And I guess you graduated with the media and communications degree. Yeah.
Yeah, so I graduated from Redeemer University in 2019 with my undergrad Bachelor's of Arts in Media and Communication. My minor was in English. And was at Redeemer for 3.5 years. The first semester I was at a public university, and then I transferred to Redeemer.
Very cool. Okay, so let's maybe start there. So how did you hear about Redeemer University, and can you remember what made you want to transfer?
Yeah, so I grew up going to Christian elementary school and Christian high school. And I had kind of a love hate relationship with it. There were things that I really, really valued, and there were things that I wanted to kind of explore more of the world. So when I graduated high school and had more of a choice in my education, I chose a public university in communications about two hours from home. And I went there and I didn't know a lot of people. And I knew quite a few people at Redeemer. And so, kind of, I would say around November, so about 2 months into the semester, I learned that Redeemer had a media and communications program. And I started seriously contemplating whether I wanted to transfer to Redeemer. And I'm really glad that I did because I just really missed that Christian community. And I almost found it at Redeemer instantly again. In the school that I was at before then, I just felt like I wasn't really building the connections that I was hoping to build. And I knew that I could thrive at Redeemer and that I was just being stubborn by not going there. And then, yeah, when I transferred, it was a really good transition.
Very cool. And yeah, I guess, because the media program was still pretty new around that time. I know it's grown a lot since then, which is exciting for, anyone who is passionate about the media program like ourselves. Um, could you talk about when you started at Redeemer then kind of in the winter semester?
Yeah, so it was the winter semester of my first year.
Okay, cool. And how did you find that transition? Did you meet people okay? Were you just put into a dorm and they were like make friends?
Pretty much, there was an opening in a dorm because somebody had moved out of that dorm for other reasons, and so I moved in, and I found that was a pretty smooth transition. I was a little bit nervous about jumping into a home that already existed, but I felt like they were really welcoming, and I really liked the dorm experience. I liked the meals together, and I liked that automatically you already knew 5 to 7 other people at the school right away, and it wasn't a dorm that I already knew a few people in. So that kind of helped because then I knew some people outside of my dorm and some people inside of my dorm. Uh, and so that transition was pretty smooth. And then the academic transition was smooth too. All of my courses transferred over. Um, and I found it was kind of interesting comparing my first year courses with my first semester courses with my Redeemer courses. Uh, I found that Redeemer, their education was more hands on. I found that the public school was kind of like, here's a curriculum, good luck. And Redeemer, there was just more of an environment of asking questions. And it was more, you were engaged with the professors opposed to just being somebody in a very large room hoping that you're retaining the information.
Yeah, no, that's well said. And that's a good segue into, so you studied media and communications. What are when you reflect on that program, and we'll talk about courses and stuff later, but how did what you studied at Redeemer impact what you're doing now?
Yeah, so right now I'm full-time freelancing and I've been doing that for 5 months, or sorry, 5 years this fall. Um, and with my freelancing, it's a lot of marketing writing, so a lot of social media content, blog writing content, email content. And then I also teach people how to improve their Etsy shops. And that's kind of a different form of media as well. And in my freelancing journey, I've essentially done so many of the things that I learned in my undergrad because I've done video editing, I've done audio editing, I've done writing, I've done script writing, all of these things that the media and communications degree is just a very well-rounded degree. And I'm finding that in my career, I'm like, oh yeah, I did some of that in my undergrad. Oh yeah, I did some of that in my undergrad. And it's helped me have a fairly wide range of tasks and projects that I feel confident completing. Uh, and I feel like because it's such a wide range that you cover in the degree, that really has set me up for success in the world of media that's rapidly changing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so you graduate Redeemer in 2019. Did you know you wanted to get into freelance right away, or did you kind of try out some other stuff?
So I graduated and then I entered into a full time position as a copywriter on a communications team for a nonprofit right once I graduated. I think it was honestly within 3 weeks because I had been looking for jobs in the winter final semester so that I would
Right.
have something set up. And so that was going fairly well. And then COVID hit, obviously. And I feel so thankful that I finished my undergrad before COVID hit.
Yeah.
Uh, but then that had me working from home, and I felt like I could do more with my time than there was opportunity in that nonprofit position. And so then I kind of started freelancing a little bit, and then I wanted to go full time remote with my position because COVID proved to me that I could. But they weren't sure when they were going to have people in the office. And so then I switched to a contract position with that full time role. And then that kind of helped me segue. As I grew my freelancing, I still had this contract. And then once my freelancing was able to sustain me, I left the contract position. So that was probably like a 6 to 8 month transition period. And I feel thankful that I was able to transition into freelancing with minimal like tension because I had that contract position to kind of fall onto. Uh, but now the freelancing, I just really like the ability to make my own hours and that flexibility. And it has its ebbs and flows, but it's kind of fun that it changes up every day.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And there's definitely a whole world of freelance that I'm sure that you could talk about for hours. Could you maybe, and I think it's interesting how you kind of transitioned into freelance instead of just going like, no, fully freelance, here I go. But could you talk about like with freelancing, are there any specific projects that you've been part of that you reflect back, and that was something that you used your skills at Redeemer that really helped you accomplish those goals?
I think that a lot of my freelancing, so I'm on a platform called Fiverr
Yeah.
and I freelance on there, but then I also freelance with people outside of Fiverr, with like magazines like The Banner and then the Christian Courier newspaper. I write for them a little bit. And I think that I built a lot of connections through my experience at Redeemer, and that helped me be able to kind of land some of those roles. And so, with the banner, for example, I go to Synod every year, which is essentially a bunch of Christian Reformed churches meet together to make a bunch of decisions for the denomination. And I do news reporting there. It's about a week-long event. And I feel like my experience at Redeemer with the journalism courses that I loved, and then some of the other creative writing courses as well, though news writing's not creative writing, but just that writing experience helped me feel more confident going to Synod. And then also that Christian background helped me feel more capable in being able to report for a Christian organization. Yeah.
No, absolutely. No, that's fascinating, and that's a good segue into when you think back at to your time at Redeemer, what were some of your favorite courses? This has become my like favorite question to ask in this alumni series because it's always interesting. Are there any courses that kind of stick have stuck with you?
Definitely. I think the journalism courses that I took, I believe it was two journalism courses, were really, really impactful for me. One of the assignments that I really loved was you wrote an article and then you had to pitch it to a publisher, like a publication. And I think that at the time that was really intimidating, but it gave me firsthand experience because then I went on to pitch other articles, and now I frequently write for a few different publications. And I just did the math this summer. I have over 150 published articles, so that felt like a large accomplishment when I look at little me sitting in a Redeemer journalism class, being like, oh, I would love to do news reporting, and then to see that I have over 150 articles and a lot of those are news reporting, just it just fills my heart with joy.
Yeah, absolutely. No, congratulate. I'm happy to celebrate that with you. That's a huge
Thank
accomplishment,
you.
and it's cool because if I remember correctly, you were also the editor of the Crown as
I
well.
was.
Yeah, Redeemer student newspaper.
Yeah, so I started as a reporter with the Crown, and then and that was in my first year, and then by the fourth year I was the editor in chief, and that experience helped me land my position with the nonprofit. They like explicitly commented on that because it was such tangible writing experience.
Yeah.
And then I think that my experience with that nonprofit helped me land some other writing experiences as well.
That's phenomenal. Very cool. Well, so your news writing courses, were there any other courses that kind of stuck out?
Well, I definitely had a lot of fun with a lot of the creative courses, screenwriting. There's
Yeah,
some iconic silly videos that came out of some of those courses, and um, just a lot of the media courses helped me think more deeply about the world and how we view it and how we interact with media. And I think specifically two of the profs that were there, Dr. Stiller and Dr. Wood, just were so invested in their students that all of their courses were impactful because the way that they were invested in their students and their growth.
hmm,
Um, so that, like, I just feel so thankful for those relationships and those courses and how they shaped my education and made me excited to learn.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And kind of just to kind of build upon that is when you're working in news reporting, social media, or just content creation in general, how does your Christian faith impact how you go about doing your freelance work?
Hmm. So it's kind of interesting because a lot of my freelance work is in the Christian media world already. So then it's firsthand there. And so I always view that as glorifying God through the work that I'm doing when I'm reporting stories that directly link back to ministry. But then on the other side, where it's not explicitly a Christian world that I'm writing in, I find that approaching my work with integrity and honesty and coming from a stance of like I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do it well has
Yeah.
really helped me find meaning and purpose in the work that I'm doing and glorifying God through what I'm creating.
Yes, yes. And I when I think back to, some of the classes that we took during, our media degree and things like that, I'm always remembering the theme of like caring for the story, right? Like if someone trusts you to tell their story, the importance of having, of recognizing they're kind of gifting you with that story, and if you get to tell someone else's story, there's so much care that has to come with that, and especially from a Christian perspective. So do you find that when these organizations or individuals trust you with a story, that kind of comes into play of caring for that?
I definitely do. I think that some of the news stories that I've written have not always been good news stories, and some of them have been really weighty. And that's something that I don't take lightly. I take that to heart, and I try to be really respectful and respect people's time. And if somebody shares something and then they say, "Oh, I don't want that in the article," like of course I'm going to respect that. And um, I just think that that's something that I did really learn at Redeemer, is recognizing that the humans come before the stories, and that I never want to exploit somebody for a story. And I think in the media world, that's not always what you're taught. And I value that Redeemer did teach me that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess in regards to working in the freelance world, do you have any advice for someone who is looking to become like a full-time freelance content creator?
Yeah, I would say that I'm kind of asked this question a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that my personal experience has taught me a few things. The first is kind of just start, and to start from a hobby perspective. I think that you put a lot of pressure on yourself if you just quit and say, I'm going to freelance. And then it becomes really stressful and anxiety inducing. And I find that if you can have an opportunity to kind of ease into it more, then my experience personally and what I've observed from other people is that that tends to work better, because you're alleviating some of that pressure and you're allowing yourself to grow into a space rather than forcing that growth. I also think that people often feel like, oh, I'm going to start when? I'm going to start when? But I feel like you should start today.
Yeah.
If you want to be somebody somewhere in X amount of years, then you should start, even if it's just little steps, just starting with, where do I want to freelance? How am I going to do it? Doing some research. Like for me, starting with creating a Fiverr profile,
Mm.
and then like building that as I went, and watching a lot of videos on how to optimize a profile and how to create good thumbnail images and what to put in the description and all of those things, and doing that research so that I was doing it well and I wasn't just going, I'm going to try this. Ugh, it didn't work. I give up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good advice for anyone that's looking, whether it's starting a blog or maybe a YouTube channel or a podcast, or you're trying to get active on any social media platform. That's fantastic advice. Just get started, right?
Definitely. I feel like I'm constantly preaching that. Like, just start. You're never going to feel fully ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of circling it back to specifically the video production courses at Redeemer. How competent were you coming into the course with, like, working a camera, getting lighting right, and working, a boom pole and sound and capturing it. And then did you see yourself improve throughout the program?
Yeah, so my confidence entering into some of those more technical courses is probably a negative 4 out of 10. And I think that it definitely did improve. And I also feel like I was encouraged to lean into the areas I was most passionate and excited about. If somebody asked me to come on set and do this audio recording now, I would be hesitant. But if somebody asked me to do the script writing or do some editing after or edit the audio, those things I'm way more confident in. And I feel like it was so great to have such a range of experience, because I learned I really hate lighting a set. I do. And then I'll second guess it, and then I'll do it again. And I'll do it and it'll look okay. There are people who are much better at it and there are people much worse at it. But I love piecing together a story, the before and the after.
Mm.
If somebody just gives me footage, oh, I love that. Thank you. I don't want to have to push the record. Leading the interview, absolutely, I'll do that. But I feel like I loved that the courses gave you an opportunity to try all those things, because I know people who came out of it who were like, I love lighting a set and I love the camera work.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that sometimes people get wrong about media and communications is you kind of have to have an understanding of it all to a degree, but often you get to play to your strengths, right?
Exactly.
And the media program at Redeemer definitely does a good job of setting students up for success and discovering those strengths.
And I've also, so I'm doing my master's of media production arts now, and a
Yeah,
lot of that has come into this. So you kind of start with, okay, we're going to do a little bit of everything. And then as the program's gone on, writing's really my passion. And so that's kind of been my more of a focus in the later courses. And it's been nice because I've seen that at Redeemer, and then I've seen it in this graduate program as well.
very cool. And I'm glad you brought up your master's because I wanted to ask about that next. Is so you graduated 2019. what made when did you start your master's, like, or you're still in your master's program then, or yeah, so
Yeah, so I started in September and I anticipate to be done by Christmas.
okay.
Depending, the thesis is always questionable, but my goal right now is to have it done by Christmas.
Okay, and would you say that your master's is that kind of setting you up for future specific goals or projects that you hope to accomplish?
Yeah, so I think with freelancing, I'm always looking at where I want to pivot and what I want to do next. And I don't like there are parts of my business that I don't want to be doing forever. And so I anticipate completing this master's and then pivoting. I don't exactly know what that pivot looks like yet, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Very, very cool. Well, Kristen, this has just been so fun, just nerding out about the media program with you. I do have one final question for you. For the student that's in high school, or maybe they're at another university and they're thinking of transferring to Redeemer, what advice would you have for them if they're interested in studying media and communications at Redeemer?
I think that my advice would be to consider what type of industry you want to go into. And if it's an industry that involves media and communications, I think this can be a really great degree because it's so well rounded and there are so many opportunities in the world of jobs
Yeah.
that a media and communications degree can really help. I think it's a really great program if you love being creative and you love that artsy side, but you also love kind of the more hands on experience. And so I guess my advice would be to look at where you want to go and then to see if this type of creative degree would fit in with that.
Yeah, very good advice. Well, Kristen, thank you so much for joining the Redeemer podcast.
Thanks for having me, Zach. It's been fun.
Yeah. And if you're watching this, feel free to check out our website, redeemer.ca, if you want to know more about the media program, and check out some of our other alumni episodes. As always, God bless, and we will see you in the next episode.